All right, y'all, welcome to the show. I got a big one for you today. So Israel has officially taken Rafah, particularly the border has been taken over. That's a huge deal. They're shutting down food deliveries. I mean, it's as ugly as it gets, man. And this is something that Biden has previously called a red line for Israel. Is he going to stick by it? I'll give you one guess. So we'll talk about that. We have Macklemore's pro-Palestine rap song was just censored on YouTube. Look, I'm all for the Drake versus Kendrick beef, and I've been following it closely. But let's keep it real. Macklemore's speaking more truth to power than either one of them right now, involved in their petty personal bullshit. He's talking on Palestine. So we'll dive into that. We also have the New York Times winning a Pulitzer after absolute shameless and repeated lies on Israel's behalf. Kristi Noem malfunctions and rages at a Fox News host. She's terrible at these interviews, man. I can't believe she ever won any office as a politician because she clearly doesn't know how to handle tough questions. It is pathetic to watch her implode every time she opens her mouth. And then also Drake's bodyguard was shot. So the rap beef sort of turned deadly, at least a little bit. And there's a bunch of theories as to who did the shooting. We'll get to all that stuff. And then Stormy Daniels unleashes on Trump and spills all the tea and does it in court. So we'll talk about what she said, testifying, and whether or not it was actually a good thing for the prosecution or if it's a good thing for Trump. It's actually a more complicated answer than you might think. All right, so without any further ado, everybody do me a big favor. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps us out big time. You have no idea. Makes our videos spread far and wide. It's a big, big help. So subscribe to the channel. Click that bell icon so you get a notification every time a video drops. And let's dive into it. First, we're going to go to Euromonitor here. And they say the following. With its potential military operation in Rafah, Israel threatens to execute over 1.2 million Palestinians. So for those of you who don't know and you haven't been keeping up, what's happened is Israel has done a total onslaught against Gaza. North Gaza is effectively wiped off the map. Like every building in North Gaza is going gonzo. And so for a while, it was like, hey, civilians, travel to the south and you'll be safe. Now, after Israel said, hey, travel to the south and you'll be safe, they bombed the roads that these people were taking to the south. So now you have this basically one part of Gaza, Rafah, which is kind of like the size of LAX airport. And you have over 1 million people jammed in there. It's a horror show. I mean, you have hundreds of people per toilet, per shower. I mean, it is disastrous. People, of course, are starving because Israel has been holding up the food or blocking at least 70% of it. That's an old number going back months now. But now they come out and say, oh, you guys got to move from Rafah. Well, where the fuck do you want them to go? There's literally nowhere else to go. There is nowhere safe in Gaza. And their answer is I don't know. You figure it out. Go to this little corner of Rafah or that little corner of Rafah where there's no infrastructure at all and just figure it out. I mean, look. How much more evidence do people need that we're looking at a genocidal campaign? That we're looking at ethnic cleansing unfolding right in front of our eyes? I don't know how much more evidence people need. So here's what they say in Euromonitor. The Israeli army issued on Monday a new evacuation order against tens of thousands of displaced Palestinians in Rafah in the far south of the Gaza Strip. These orders are an apparent prelude to the start of its new military operation, which threatens to execute more than 1.2 million people in the city and is an escalation of Israel's genocide against Palestinians in the Strip, a crime that has been going on since October 7, 2023. Through written leaflets, text messages, and recorded phone calls, the Israeli army has ordered Rafah's civilian population to move out of the city's eastern neighborhoods, particularly the area of Al-Shuka, as well as Al-Salam, Al-Janina, and Al-Biyuk, toward the area of Al-Mawasi. However, Israel provided no explanation as to how the civilian population would be safely transported to Al-Mawasi, which is west of the nearby city of Khan Yunis, or how they would be organized upon their arrival. More than 200,000 people may be targeted by the displacement order, which also affects the Abu Yusuf al-Najjar Hospital, Rafah's main hospital, as well as the Rafah and Kerem Shalom crossings. It should be noted that humanitarian aid access through these crossings has been stopped since yesterday afternoon. The Israeli army's new displacement orders came with a warning that Gaza City and its north remain a dangerous combat zone, making it impossible for Palestinian residents to go north. At the same time, airstrikes on residential homes in Rafah have intensified in recent hours, leaving 26 people dead, the majority of them women and children, and dozens more wounded. More people reportedly remain missing under the rubble. So, look, yet again, this is another example of we're just going to bomb you wherever the fuck you go. And we're going to pretend like we're targeting Hamas, even though we're not targeting Hamas, even though we're just... And by the way, there will be verification on this later. They're just in favor of destroying all of Rafah. So I have some terrifying video for you. So Ryan Grimm tweeted this. It's a piece from Democracy Now! There's somebody in the press who's on the ground in Rafah, and he says Israel has seized the Rafah border and shut down food deliveries. So previously, as we pointed out, they've blocked 70% of the food coming in. Now they've just shut down the food completely. Well, gee, I wonder what's going to happen in that scenario with people already starving. Okay, so before this, I mean, I'm sure we talked about it a little on the show, but I want to give you some more information. So Hamas was involved in direct negotiations with Qatar and Egypt and the U.S. and Israel to come up with a deal to release all the hostages, right? Well, apparently Hamas released the text for that ceasefire deal, and they accepted it. Hamas accepted it. The text includes the release of all Israeli hostages and war prisoners and all the bodies of deceased Israeli hostages and war prisoners. All of them. Now, this is what Israel has told us from day one. This is what we want. This is what we're saying is our big thing. Israel said no to the deal. So I'm going to point it out again for those who are slow, but it's almost like that is not the thing that's their main concern, because they were offered it on a silver platter here, and they said no. It's almost like the real concern is the ethnic cleansing of Gaza, and that's what we're currently witnessing. So again, you can't, there is no more plausible deniability to the rest of the world, to the international community. When you're offered on a silver platter what you want with your ceasefire, and then Hamas says yes and you say no, and you go ahead with a Rafah invasion anyway, you tell me what Occam's razor is in that scenario. We all know what it is. Okay, so according to the UN, they say that an operation in Rafah will be a tragedy beyond words. According to the World Health Organization, an incursion in Rafah will plunge crisis into Gaza to unprecedented levels, according to Doctors Without Borders. Nowhere in Gaza is safe. Human Rights Watch says forcing displaced Palestinians out of Rafah is catastrophic. And then the Wall Street Journal says this: why Israel must take Rafah. It's the last sanctuary for Hamas's military battalions in Gaza. These people are demons, man. These people are demons. There are 2.3 million Palestinians in Gaza. There's only 30,000 Hamas. You know where Hamas is? In the tunnels. You know where all the civilians are? In Rafah. And they go, we're going to attack Rafah. Again, gee, it's almost like they want to kill the civilians. All right, so we have, look, this is a very symbolic video here. The Israeli army tanks stormed the Palestinian side of the Rafah border crossing, and here's what they did. I'm sure that Hamas was hiding in that sign, which is why they ran over it. Look, it's symbolic. It's symbolic. A Gaza sign, and they go, just run it over. We're going to bulldoze all of Gaza. That's the symbolism there, and that's literally what they're doing. All right, so this is wild. I'm going to show you the comparison here. So as you had the Rafah invasion happening, you also had the Met Gala happening. You guys all know what the Met Gala is. We see the videos and the pictures coming out of there every year. And as many people pointed out, this is like some literal Hunger Games stuff that we're watching. So look at the contrast. That speaks for itself right there, man. The White House thinks the Israeli operation to capture the Rafah crossing doesn't cross President Biden's red line that could lead to a shift in U.S. policy towards the Gaza war. But this could change if the operation broadens, two U.S. officials told me. So in other words, for the longest time, Biden was saying, don't go into Rafah. Going into Rafah is a red line. You're only allowed to go into Rafah if you have a plausible plan to deal with civilians. This is what his line was. Then Israel says, fuck you, fuck your ceasefire deal. I reject it. I know Hamas accepted it, but I reject it, and I'm going to go into Rafah. And what does Biden do? Thank you, sir. May I have another, please? Thank you, sir. Please spit in my eye. I would really appreciate that. I've never seen, we're going to talk about this more in a little bit, I've never seen such colossal weakness on the part of the American president. The person who's the head of the world's sole superpower, the most powerful man on earth, by the way, having a client state, a colonial outpost, shove us around, slap him in the face. It is, oh God. So let me give you some information from this Axios article. The overall takeaway from this Axios article is that the U.S. was supportive of this ceasefire deal that Hamas said we accept. The U.S. behind the scenes was like, yes, we're going to do this. And then Israel puts its middle finger up and goes ahead with the Rafah invasion anyway. Again, spitting in the eye of America. So the title is Israelis Frustrated with U.S. Handling of Hostage Talks. Israeli officials claim the Biden administration knew about the latest hostage and ceasefire deal proposal Egypt and Qatar negotiated with Hamas, but didn't brief Israel before Hamas announced it accepted it on Monday. A senior U.S. official pushed back, saying American diplomats have been engaged with Israeli counterparts. There have been no surprises. The episode has created deep disappointment and suspicion among senior Israeli officials regarding the U.S. role in the hostage deal talks and could negatively influence the negotiations going forward. I love this. So in other words, what the Israeli government is saying is, we know you've given us endless money. We know you've given us endless weapons. We know you've given us endless runway to do an ethnic cleansing and a genocide. We're still pissed off at you because it looks like you might want that stuff to wind down now and we don't want it to wind down, so fuck you. Tell me who has the legitimate beef in this scenario. Certainly ain't Israel. The U.S. official said this, quote, is an extremely difficult process with negotiations conducted through intermediaries in Doha and Cairo. He added that the U.S. believes Israel has engaged in the talks in good faith and that the Israelis, oh my God, and that Israel's latest April proposal was the most forward-leaning proposal to date. Oh, please. To secure a ceasefire, Hamas simply needs to release hostages. It's all mapped out. Well, that's what this deal did, and Israel rejected it. The official also said the Biden administration sees Hamas's response as a counterproposal and not as a new proposal. But it's the latest episode to deepen tensions between the Biden administration and Israeli leaders over the war in Gaza, where more than 34,700 Palestinians have been killed, blah, blah, blah. You guys know the gist of that stuff. It's actually 42,000. That's a lowball number that we're talking about there. So apparently Blinken was replaced with Bill Burns, who's the head of the CIA, in the negotiations. And the speculation about that is Blinken's just a fucking idiot who, in every way, shape, and form, just gives the Israelis whatever the fuck they want. He doesn't understand the difference between Israeli interests and U.S. interests. And this Bill Burns guy, he's a more seasoned diplomat, and so he can work something out and it'll work out better. And look, this guy did his job, to be fair, but then Israel is a fucking rabid dog with rabies, and they were like, fuck you, fuck your deal. I know we said we wanted the hostages home. We don't actually care about the hostages. We want to do an ethnic cleansing and a genocide, and so we're going to go ahead and do that. So anyway, this goes on. Israel is pretending like, oh, we were stabbed in the back. The deal was unfair. Total bullshit. All of it is total bullshit. It's all performative. They're being performative. The fact of the matter is, Netanyahu is caught in a position where he knows Biden and the international community are like, wrap this up. This is horrific. This is horrible. These are war crimes. We can't keep going this way, right? But at the same time, domestically, Netanyahu has to deal with Smotrich and Ben-Gvir and these parties to his right that give him his power in their coalition. And their take is, fuck the hostages, fuck everything, just bulldoze all of Gaza and let's resettle it. Kill every last Palestinian and let's resettle it. So in order for Netanyahu to stay in power, he has to keep the war going and he has to appease Smotrich and Ben-Gvir and the far-right coalition. And so that leads us to where we are right now. It's a perfectly toxic brew where he's like, fuck the international community, fuck Joe Biden, fuck this whole peace process. They're not negotiating in good faith. There is no good faith among the Israelis. It's just not there. There's literally more good faith among Hamas than there is among the Israeli counterparts who are negotiating this. It's a fake negotiation. And nothing should have made it more clear than what just happened. Hamas accepts the deal. Israel rejects the deal because Israel doesn't want a deal. They don't care about the hostages. They don't. They care about wiping Gaza off the map, which is what they're doing more. This is amazing. So on the same day or a day after, we learned that Israel rejected the deal that the U.S. wanted them to accept and that Hamas accepted. The Biden administration has indefinitely delayed its report on whether Israel has violated humanitarian law in Gaza. The State Department was supposed to issue the report today. If it had concluded there was a violation, the U.S. would be expected to stop sending military aid. So that was the deadline for the report. Literally a day or two after the Israelis rejected a deal and said, we're going to invade Rafah even though you told us not to. The U.S. punts on it. Biden punts on it. In other words, you just openly defied us repeatedly. You just spit in our eye. You weren't even negotiating in good faith. And you know what? We're still going to send money and weapons to you. Look, I pointed this out a million times, but if there was 500,000 dead Palestinians, if there was 1 million dead Palestinians, I'm not sure the posture from the U.S. would be any different. I think Biden would still be smugly lecturing pro-Palestine protesters. I think he'd be giving these navel-gazing speeches about how great Western values are and about how evil and anti-Semitic Palestinians are. If Israel nuked Gaza, I think he'd find a way to play defense for it. The rhetoric wouldn't change. Because the fact of the matter is, if we have 42,000 dead Palestinians, what makes us think the reaction would be any different if there were 500,000 dead Palestinians or 1 million dead Palestinians? This is a total farce. And Palestinian lives, in the eyes of Western elites, they are less than the lives of mosquitoes. So this was their attempt to save face, the Biden administration's attempt to save face. Pay attention very carefully to the detail of what I'm about to tell you. The Biden administration is holding up shipments of 2 types of Boeing-made precision bombs to send a political message to Israel, according to a U.S. official and 6 other people with knowledge of the deliberations. So instead of saying we're going to cut off all the money and all the weapons, you openly defied us, you don't want peace, you're not negotiating in good faith, fall the fucking line. Instead of doing that, they go, hey, we're sending you like 100 different kinds of weapons. What if we cut off 2 of them and we still send the other 98? This is what we call the virtue signal. This is what we call the PR ass covering. See, we're standing up to Israel. And by the way, a bunch of fucking morons totally fall for this head fake. You got John Fetterman over on Fox News melting down because you're only sending 98 of the 100 kinds of weapons that Israel wants. How dare you? You're anti-Semites. Could you imagine falling for this in the context of what's happening? If anybody's paying even minimal attention, they're going to realize what this is. Oh, you're trying to save face even though substantively nothing changes. And I guarantee you Netanyahu is laughing behind the scenes. Oh, you're going to punish us by cutting off 2 of the kinds of weapons? Oh my God. All right, so now let's get to the domestic reaction here. Meda Benjamin of Code Pink, anti-war activist in Congress. She talks to Brian Mast. This is the guy, by the way, who wore an IDF uniform in Congress. Can you imagine, in any other context, somebody wearing the uniform of a foreign country's military and everybody acting like that's okay?
Now that Hamas has agreed to a ceasefire, do you think Israel should agree?
I think Israel should go in there and kick the shit out of them. Just absolutely destroy them, their infrastructure, level anything that they touch. Clear enough?
Congressman, the world is calling for a ceasefire. You used to say Hamas won't agree to a ceasefire. Hamas had just agreed. It was a proposal put forward by Egypt, Qatar. You know, CIA Director William Burns has been there negotiating.
You know what? If there's an American held or somebody else being held, there should be every expectation that Americans come and kill them as well. If there's an American being held, we should go kill the people that are holding them.
Why are you so hateful?
It's not hateful.
It is, because my people are Palestinian. You're killing my people with our tax dollars. And you saying that
Those
everything
should associate themselves with terrorists. They shouldn't vote terrorists into office
We keep
like
saying
Hamas.
to you,
They
the
should
Israel is the terrorist.
Palestinian Islamic
Israel is the
Al
terrorist.
Aqsa Martyrs Brigade, Lions Den, Fatah, all those terrorist
We
organizations.
say to you
that are
every
part of the
single
Palestinian
time,
people.
majority of people are children. They're the ones that are bearing the brunt.
Just because you say it doesn't make it true. Though.
It is absolutely 100% true and verifiably so, and every human rights organization has pointed that out time and time again.
Believe that it's children?
Let me say this very clearly. I literally don't believe a word that you say.
Well, I think that you are a heartless, soulless, cruel man. And today is Holocaust
From
Remembrance
you,
Day
I'll
for
take
my
that as a
people,
compliment.
my people, Jewish people. And I am saying, as a Jew, we said never again, and it's happening now. We say
You are
never
so
again.
hateful and disgusting. It's a shame. You are a crime against humanity.
Quote, I think Israel should go in there and kick the shit out of them, just absolutely destroy them, their infrastructure, level anything that they touch. Brian Mast is 100% with the Israeli government when they say ethnic cleansing and genocide. That's what we support. Fuck the hostages. He basically said it there. Fuck the hostages. All right. Moments before invading Rafah, Zionist soldiers blast a ram's horn and chant, "Let us destroy Rafah." Where were they radicalized, man? Where were they radicalized? That looked a lot like the Taliban or Al-Qaeda or ISIS to me. Destroy Rafah? So this is the video. Al Jazeera was banned in Israel, and this is a video that was pre-recorded that they dropped after the fact.
If you're watching this pre-recorded report, then Al Jazeera has been banned in the territory of Israel. On April the 1st, the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, passed a law that allowed the Prime Minister to ban Al Jazeera. He's now enacted that law. Let me just take you through some of the definitions within the law. They've banned our website, including anything that has the option of entering or accessing the website, even passwords that are needed, whether they're paid or not, and whether it's stored on Israeli servers or outside of Israel. The website is now inaccessible. They're also banning any device used for providing content. That includes my mobile phone. If I use that to do any kind of news gathering, then the Israelis can simply confiscate it. Our internet access provider, the guy that simply hosts aljazeera.net, is also in danger of being fined if they host the website. The Al Jazeera TV channel, completely banned. Transmission by any kind of content provider is also banned. And holding offices or operating them in the territory of Israel by the channel. Also, once again, any devices used to provide content for the channel can be taken away by the Israelis. It's a wide-ranging ban. We don't know how long it'll be in place for, but it does cover this territory of the State of Israel. Imran Khan, Al Jazeera, occupied East Jerusalem.
Only democracy in the Middle East. Only democracy in the Middle East. Most moral army in the world. Imagine believing that. Israeli settlers attack aid trucks carrying desperately needed humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip, further worsening the humanitarian crisis in the war-ridden region. You can see it here. Israel has been on a 7-month U.S. armed and funded killing spree against women and children in Gaza. The Biden administration has blocked ceasefires, doubled down on support as the atrocities have mounted. Netanyahu has sabotaged multiple deals to release hostages. Let's check in on CNN. Analyst, Hamas trying to look good by agreeing to proposal. Watch the full video here. The facts on the ground don't matter. The reaction is always the same. Israel's an angel. Israel's perfect. Israel's done nothing wrong. It's Hamas are evil terrorist barbarians. Well, what about a scenario where Hamas agrees to a ceasefire and Israel rejects it and goes ahead with a genocidal campaign anyway? I don't know. That's somehow Hamas's fault and they're trying to look good even though they're not good or whatever. This is like trying to watch a gorilla do political analysis. So this guy, Representative Don Bacon, hilarious name, said, I introduced a censure against Ilhan Omar for pro-genocide Jews remark. This guy's a fucking idiot. What Ilhan Omar said was whether somebody is pro-genocide or anti-genocide, they have a right to free speech. And what she meant was, hey, even the people who disagree with me, who are in favor of like leveling Gaza and doing an ethnic cleansing, even they have a right to free speech. So in a roundabout way, she's actually defending these people who are her sworn enemies. She's defending people like Representative Don Bacon. Now, this fucking moron misinterprets it as her saying, you know, pro-Palestine folks are in favor of a genocide against Jews and they have a right to free speech. That's not what she said. That's not what she meant. But they spin it as if, oh, she wants to genocide the Jews and they're censuring her for it. And then I love this. You have Jordan Ewell pointing out here. Republican congressman suggests nuking Gaza. Tim Walberg suggested dropping a nuclear bomb on Gaza like Nagasaki and Hiroshima in order to get it over quick. His comments have been widely condemned and his office insists it was metaphorical. So there's no censure for a guy who said literally nuke 2.3 million civilians, but there's a censure for a comment that is correct about freedom of speech. I hate these people with a burning passion, man. I hate them with a burning passion. So on Holocaust Remembrance Day, that's when Israel ramped up the victim narrative the most and decided we're going to complete our genocidal campaign. And here's Mike Johnson, the GOP Speaker of the House, talking on Holocaust Remembrance Day, and look at the vicious, vicious smears he has.
German universities like those at Strasbourg were at the heart of Renaissance and intellectual life. But it was at those same elite centers of learning where Jewish faculty and students were suddenly expelled, where anti-Jewish courses were introduced, and where professors performed horrific pseudoscience experiments on Jewish people brought from nearby concentration camps. We remember what happened then, and now today, we are witnessing American universities quickly becoming hostile places for Jewish students and faculty. The very campuses which were once the envy of the International Academy have succumbed to an anti-Semitic virus. Students who were known for producing academic papers are now known for stabbing their Jewish peers in the eyes with Palestinian flags.
That was a total lie. That was a total lie. The woman who said that is a known fabulist. We have the video. It's a lie. Her eye's fucking fine. She wasn't stabbed in the eye at all. They fall for it. Now who are the snowflakes and the cancel culture lovers and the people who are willing to accuse the other side of bigotry at the drop of a pin? This was always the accusation against the left. Now it's the right doing it. You're all anti-Semites because you don't want Israel to massacre millions of Palestinians.
And with our survivors before us, if you close your eyes in the quietness of your own heart, you can almost hear the glass of Jewish storefronts shattered by stormtroopers. You can see fathers being executed at point blank in the ghettos. You can feel a brother's hand slipping out of his sister's as men in uniforms separate them into lines, and they can only mouth to one another, "Everything will be okay," hoping that it would be. You can hear screams coming from the gas chambers. And it's in these troubling times we must look to this audience, to the survivors of the Holocaust and their descendants, to help us remember and to bear witness. Several weeks ago, I am very proud to report to you that the United States Congress overwhelmingly passed security assistance to Israel to help protect its borders. That's right. And we kept our promise that we made decades ago. Never again.
So let's be clear. He's comparing pro-Palestine protesters on college campuses to Nazis. That's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. Let me say this as clearly as possible. You, Mike Johnson, you, Joe Biden, you, Donald Trump, you, congressional Republicans and congressional Democrats, you and Netanyahu and Ben Gvir and Smotrich and the generals and the commanders in Israel, you guys are the Nazis. As many pro-Palestine Jews have pointed out, anti-Zionist Jews have pointed out, hey, when we say never again, we mean it for everybody. Not just Jews. We mean it for everybody. And the people who are pointing fingers and accusing others of being Nazis and supporting the Holocaust are currently supporting a genocide against Palestinians and arming and funding it. He went from accusing pro-Palestine protesters of being Nazis to bragging about how much money and weapons he's sending to Israel as they do a genocide right now in front of our eyes. I can't, man. These people are so grotesque. They're so fucking grotesque. All right. We have another Israeli TV station and another person brazenly calling for genocide on it. Let's watch. We need to attack them hard until they scream the word Hamas. But the abductees' families say that if you go... Let me make sure this is slow enough here. I want to slow it down a touch so I can read it all. But we see what they're doing. They're laughing at us. I'm just going to mute it. So tell me, what is your opinion? Because I don't understand. I think we should have gone into Rafah already yesterday to get in and get them. And then what happens? And then they'll pop up from under the ground. There are no uninvolved civilians there. You have to go in and kill and kill and kill. Okay, I got it. Hold on, I missed that last part. Okay, I got it. And that will bring back the abductees. What? We have to kill them before they kill us. And how will the abductees return, Boker? We'll try to get them. So again, another classic example of like the concern about the hostages is an afterthought. His main point is go in there and kill and kill and kill. There are no uninvolved civilians in Rafah. There are no uninvolved civilians in Gaza. Again, tell me who's genocidal. So then, I'm sure you guys have seen this. Zateo, Mehdi Hassan's new outlet, reported this. Republican senators sent a letter threatening the ICC. Basically telling the ICC, don't you dare issue arrest warrants for Israeli leaders. Don't you dare issue arrest warrants for them. And the U.S., for those of you who don't know, on the books, the U.S. has a law where we will invade The Hague if they come after us or our allies. And this guy's like, we'll do that. We will invade the ICC to protect genociders doing a genocide. Finally, Ken Klippenstein points out here, attending Gaza protests, the feds are watching, including law enforcement agencies most people have never heard of. So, in other words, we live in hell. We live in hell. All the people who have accurately diagnosed the crimes and the sins of history and are reacting accordingly, trying to stop them, you guys are portrayed as the bad guys. You guys are the ones who are smeared and compared to Nazis. And the ones who are actually very similar to Nazis, they're on their moral high horse virtue signaling about how moral they are as they send more money and weapons to carpet bomb children. I feel even more gaslit today than I felt during the heart of the buildup to the Iraq War. And that's no easy feat. I didn't think we'd ever surpass that. But here we are. Here we are. And I go as far as to say, I think it's significantly worse. I think it's significantly worse. This is full, like, an assault on objective reality, an assault on basic humanity and morality. There's not much else to say. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.